Councillors, can I have a motion to reopen the meeting?
I'm happy to move that.
Moved by Councillor Kavanagh, seconded by Councillor Lenker-Thompson. All those in favour? All those opposed, I declare that carried. The next item on Council's agenda is Notice of Motion 2115, Moreland's Residential Zones Proposal and the decision by the Victorian State Government. Councillor Ratnam.
For me. I'd like to move that Council resolve to write to the Honourable Jean Garrett and Richard Wynne expressing Council's dissatisfaction with the State Government's decision to remove the dwelling ratio as proposed by Council in areas designated as neighbourhood residential zones in our planning proposal. To ask that the Honourable Richard Wynne reinstate a ratio of 1 per 250 square metres in Morelands North and 1 per 200 square metres in Morelands South in neighbourhood residential zones. 3, asks the Honourable Richard Wynne to reinstate the mandatory minimum open space requirement in neighbourhood residential zones as proposed by Moreland Council. And 4, writes to the Federal Member for Wills, the Honourable Kelvin Thompson, expressing Council's dissatisfaction with the recent State Government decision and asks that he advocates that the State Government amend its decision.
Okay, seconded by Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Ratnam.
As councillors are all aware, we've had a recent decision by the State Government to approve our residential zones proposal with a really big caveat, changing the proposal around the neighbourhood residential zones and how we'd calculate density and future density controls in neighbourhood residential areas. As we were all part of, Council undertook a significant amount of work, over a year's worth of work, hundreds of hours and many thousands of dollars spent in that process to ensure that our community was consulted well in this new package of zones for the municipality. Within that, there was quite a bit of negotiation that we were attempting to do with the State Government to say that we were willing to designate some areas that were earmarked for greater density on the proviso that some areas would be maintained as lower density. And that's to maintain the diversity of housing stock so that we can have a range of different types of dwellings in our municipality so that people in all sorts of family compositions can find suitable accommodation and housing within the municipality. Over the last few weeks, we were advised that the ratio that we proposed of 1 per 200 to 250 square dwellings, which would ensure that in neighbourhood residential zones, so these are areas that we want to protect the neighbourhood character, they will be low density zones, would instead have a 4 dwellings per block ratio with a no minimum space requirement. So therefore, if a block's 200 square metres, now I can get 4 dwellings, it doesn't really matter. And sitting on the Urban Planning Committee, we are continuously frustrated at the poor development quality, the small space that will actually make many of these places unlivable in the future. And we have a duty to look after our current residents plus the future residents of the municipality. And we urge the State Minister for Planning to reconsider his decision.
Thank you, Councillor Ratnam. Councillor Kavanagh.
Yes, Councillor Ratnam's summarised it very well. Probably the only thing I will add is that I'm really pleased to see point 4 in her motion of writing to Kelvin Thompson, Member for Wills. In fairness to Kelvin, even when he's had a previous state Labor government, when I remember when Justin Madden was minister, he was quite critical of his decisions at times. So he's been a long-term supporter of a neighbourhood character and less density in the city. So. And he does have the courage, I must say, to take on even his own party in that at times. So I think that's a really good motion, and I congratulate Councillor Ratton on the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Is there debate on this item? Councillor Tapanos.
I raised to speak in favour of the motion, and I do so, but firstly stating that the proposed plan, which has been adopted, is a significant better plan than what we had previously prior to the plan. So I need to put that on the record to say that we are very pleased with the proposed plan, which has been adopted. However, we do believe that it doesn't go far enough. And there are those density requirements and open space requirements are very important parts of the plan as it was originally proposed by Moreland and the Moreland community. And those ratios are really what gives it teeth. Those ratios are really what we see is going to make a difference. And we see it every day on the Urban Planning Committee, applications that come in seeking significant amount of densities on small blocks. So we do need these types of ratios I do point out they do come into effect on our old proposal when there is when there is 3 or more dwellings. So you would have 250 square metres per dwelling in the north and 200 in the south. And I believe that these are the ratios that we've worked through with the community and they've been willing to accept. And these are the ratios that are going to have the most impact on decreasing the densities in our residential streets. We as a council have put our position that we want to see growth in our city along the designated public transport corridors, and we are seeing through our structure plan significant dwellings that are going to be approved and developed in these areas. But as a trade-off, in order to facilitate that growth, we do want to lock down and protect our residential streets. And when you remove these quotas, when you remove these densities, you're really not offering the same level of protection that we thought we were going to get. And also, we do see that open space is so important in our city. And mandating an open space provision is also very important. So it is the amount of densities, but it's also ensuring that each dwelling has an adequate amount of open space. So I commend this motion. I do believe that we do need to say somewhere that we are pleased with the progress that has been made, but there is more progress that needs to occur. And I actually believe, and I have to congratulate council officers here who have put this together, that our proposal was more innovative than what the state government department had come up with. Our proposal, which included densities, is a significantly better proposal than just saying 4. Because 4, you have a whole range of different types of blocks. So you have some really small blocks and they can get now 4 dwellings. Or you might have a block in the north which is over an acre and they can get 4 dwellings as well. So putting that number aside and saying that it should be proportional with how big the block actually is, should be proportional with how many square metres, is good planning policy. And I think it was more innovative than the original schedules that the state government had came up with. So we need to pursue those, and I believe that if we are successful in this, we would see other municipalities across Victoria seeking the same kind
used exclusively by this facility. It's somewhat dated, it does need some work, but more importantly, the great group that's currently managing it are getting to the end of their tenure with their children moving on. So this is an opportunity to make those enhancements to it, and I think this money will go far further than you would think, both internally with some painting, externally with some planting, and then possibly some ramp access and a few other things that they have proposed. And once that is all done, then they will be able to find a new group of management that will be keen to take over, because as everyone is aware, that a well-funded organisation always has many chiefs.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Kavanagh?
No, I'm happy with that, thanks.
Okay. Any further?
Add an extra couple
Yes,
of points.
Councillor Bolton.
This resolution sort of came out of the AGM of the Northern Moreland Combined Playgroup, which both Councillor Thompson and I attended. And this is a very, very dedicated group of parents, because this is entirely parent-run. They don't get any support person, like there are a number of supported playgroups in Moreland, but there are very few on a parent-run model like this. They have also been very successful at getting some Muslim playgroups involved, as well as a range of other playgroups. And I just think it's, it's, and it's a group which also has a strong volunteer ethic. Like, for instance, they weren't even considering asking council for this money, but, because they were thinking, they've been doing the sausage sizzles and the chocolate drives and all of those sorts of hard work kinds of fundraisers, and their own working bees just mobilising themselves. So I do commend Councillor Thompson for putting forward this motion, because that $10,000 would stretch to, probably other groups would be equivalent to $20,000 when you add in the working bee that they'll mobilise to carry out the work and so forth.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Is there any further discussion on this item? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Notice of motion 2415, Nepal earthquake appeal, moved by Councillor Davidson, seconded by Councillor Tapanos. Councillor Davidson.
The motion is that Council resolve to bring forward the allocation of $10,000 in the 2015-2016 budget to make a donation to the Nepalese earthquake appeal, as resolved at the Council meeting on the 27th of April this year, the 2014-2015 budget, and links be placed on the Council website to the disaster relief and Nepalese community organisations who are providing relief in Nepal. And do I have a second one?
Yes. Seconded Councillor Tapanos.
Can I just make a suggestion that perhaps another dot point to say that in the event that the community wants to have a fundraising event, the town hall be provided free of charge?
Yes, I'd accept that.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. Okay, so that'll form part of the substantive motion. Councillor Davidson.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. At the Council meeting on the 27th of April 2015, Council agreed to allocate funding to the Disaster Relief Fund following the traumatic earthquake in Nepal. Councillor Hopper and I attended the Hope Centre in Glenroy, where many members of the Nepalese community gathered to show support for the relief. I note that there's been another earthquake just as recently as today, which has added to the existing disaster and trauma experienced by those in Nepal and felt here in Moreland by members of the community here. And I'm very pleased to see that we're providing the link on the council website so that other members of the community can donate to charities assisting the Nepalese. And I thank Councillor Tapanos for adding in the use of the Coburg Town Hall.
Thank you, Councillor Davidson.
Yep, sorry. No, sorry.
I'll take the seconder and then I'll come to you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor
Thank you,
Tapanos.
Yeah, look, it's with great sadness to read reports in the media about the devastating earthquakes that have hit Nepal recently, and you just see some dramatic images of rubble and debris and buildings that have stood for centuries, historical buildings that have collapsed, and the tragic loss of life. And Nepal is not a very rich country, and it needs all the support it can get. And I note that Australia is continually decreasing the amount of foreign aid that it provides to many countries. But I believe as a council, we are correct and right in showing our support with the people of Nepal, and particularly because we do have one of the largest Nepalese, if not the largest Nepalese community in Victoria, in our city. And they are grieving, they are concerned about loved ones, they are desperately trying to get information about the safety of their relatives and friends. And at times like this, showing our support through such a modest, small donation means a lot to our residents. And it's something that we've done in the past for numerous other natural disasters, and something that we should continue. I'd just like to point out in particular our relationship with Nepal and the Nepali community has been an ongoing one for a number of years, and I commend the work of Councillor Hopper, the Mayor, and the work she has done to bring together a sister city arrangement and to really make sure that this new community in our city is not only welcomed, but is able to access council services and really be properly engaged in every service and facility that we have to offer. So they are our friends. We have engaged them a number of times. I know that the Consular General has a business in our city, and they are grieving, and at times like this I think we need to remember our friends and provide whatever support we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Councillor Kavanagh.
I just propose a small amendment, just where it says Coburg Town Hall or Brunswick Town Hall and Atrium, or in other words, in case they want to have the alternate Brunswick Town Hall, they'll be allowed to do so. No?
Yeah.
I know there's many Nepalese in Brunswick, they know a lot
Yes.
of in Brunswick.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. I'm sure that's amenable to the mover. Yep. Is there any further discussion of this item? No. If not, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried and note that it was unanimous. There being no further notices of motion, we move on now to general business. Councillor Bolton, do you have any general business items?
Just one item, that council write to the Transport Minister Jacinta Allen requesting that the hours of operation of the Queen's Parade Fawkner section of the number 530 bus route from Campbellfield to Coburg via Fawkner be extended to enable residents to get to and from work and school on time, and that copies of the letter be sent to Broadmeadows MP Frank Maguire and Wills MP Kelvin Thompson.
Okay, is there a second? Seconded Councillor Linker Thompson. Councillor Bolton.
Just to explain, I mean, this was has been raised with me on a number of times since I've been elected to council, and prior to my election there was a petition that was collected that I think Moreland's transport officer is very aware of. And I think that did result in the former Brumby government slightly extending the hours, but nowhere near enough. So that, for instance, the first bus that goes around the Queen's Parade section leaves Coburg at 8:25 a.m. and leave in the morning, and leaves the last bus leaves Coburg at 2:55 p.m. in the afternoon. And if you're coming the other way, the first bus in the morning leaves the corner of Lawn Street and Mutton Road at 8:40 a.m. and the last bus leaves this point at 3:01 p.m. Now there is also, I'm not sure of the details of it, but there is an elderly person's residence in that facility. And so for those people, it's been very difficult forcing them to walk long distances with very heavy bags when they're in their very senior years. But also even these sorts of hours of operation make it difficult for people to get to work and study on time. And there also is an industrial area nearby, McBride Street Industrial Complex, which has caused a number of issues, but it does mean there are a number of workers who work in that complex who are not, it's not as easy to catch the bus. So I'd, at this point, it's a simple writing to the Transport Minister. I don't know what position the new state government has on this issue, but it's time for us to assist the residents in lobbying for an extension of hours.
Thank you. Councillor Linker Thompson.
Just quickly, I'd like to thank Councillor Bolton for bringing this to council, because Fawkner, as we know, has a very lack of public transport, given that the tram line finishes at Coburg North, and that they've only got a train line on the other side of Sydney Road. So it's quite an isolated little suburb, and they heavily rely on buses, public transport, and it's in completely inappropriate time. So I certainly commend Councillor Bolton for advocating for an extension of time for the bus.
Thank you. Is there any further debate on this item? No, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried. That was all, Councillor Bolton?
That's all from me.
Councillor Kavanagh.
Yes, I'll move the motion. I move the council writes to the Premier of Victoria, Mr Daniel Andrews, thanking him for honouring his election commitment in providing noise walls for Glenroy and Galbraith. 2, copies of this letter be forwarded to local MPs, including Northern Metropolitan State Upper House MPs. And 3, that on behalf of all councillors, the Mayor write to Craig Griffith, thanking him for his efforts in this campaign. And if I have a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Yes, I'm sure you'll have a seconder. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Councillor Yildiz. Councillor Kavanagh.
Just to remind people that in the state budget, that $10 million towards noise walls on the southern side of the Western Ring Road were announced for Glenroy and Galbraith. And this is a huge win for the advocacy of Moreland City Council, and in particular the former member for Pascoe Vale, Christine Campbell. It's also a great effort for our transport area, and particularly Craig Griffiths. I remember 4 years ago, he organised the moving of a noise walls truck around through the electorate and through to the then Transport Minister's office, which he wasn't too happy with, parking this enormous truck outside his venue, saying noise walls now, etc. Craig held a lot of meetings up at Galbraith and at Glenroy, and so really it was terrific to see the amount of residents that came from Glenroy to our public meetings. We held a rally on at the south of the ring road with noise walls now plastered around with both with councillors and aspiring councillors at that meeting, and residents forming a human noise wall. So it's been an enormous effort. It's been and I think it's probably, I can't think of any other time that Moreland's received a $10 million basically in a particular grant from the state government. So I congratulate the Premier for the announcement and for honouring his commitment and to doing so quickly, and it'll be great to see them installed.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Yildiz. No? Is there any further discussion on this item?
No, but just whilst we are on congratulating the state government, I must
No,
point
but yes,
out,
but-
Councillor Kavanagh, but there is also a $10 million grant to Brunswick Secondary College as well. So.
Right, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
For noise
Fantastic.
walls.
No,
Thank you.
not for
Not for noise walls, Councillor Bolton.
That wouldn't cover the noise of students that I've taught, $10 million.
I don't think the residents have been complaining that much. And I
No.
met with some Brunswick Secondary College students and their principal yesterday, and they did not need any noise walls. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, I will put this motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried.
Madam Mayor, can I ask clarification with the general business? Can I move something now that doesn't have any budgetary implications or not? No, I can't move
By
anything.
12 noon.
Oh, no,
by
it
12
was
noon.
due by noon.
That's right. So I
I
can't. That's right.
apologise.
No, that's right.
You could
I'll
seek
move it
leave
next meeting.
of council.
Yeah.
You could seek leave of council.
Sorry?
You could seek, in my view, you could seek leave of council, which will require a motion to place something under urgent business.
Well, I simply want to congratulate the new leader of the Australian Greens. He's a former Faulkner resident. He went to school at St Matthews, etc. It's great to have a leader of a national political party from our municipality. That's all.
Well,
there you go.
Councillor Kavanagh, can I suggest that once we've concluded moving
Meeting.
I'll do
general
it next
business,
meeting.
well, once we've concluded moving general business items, you can seek leave of council to table something under urgent business, which is the next item on the agenda, and we can consider it there. Councillor Atnam.
Yes. I'd like to move that Council resolves to receive a report on the outcomes of the review of Council advisory committees that is currently being undertaken by its July 2015 Council meeting.
Okay, and that's seconded by Councillor Lincoln Thompson. Councillor Ratnam.
So just very briefly, as we're aware, there's a review of advisory committees that's being undertaken, particularly with the intention of aligning with the new community plan, community vision that Council is about to launch, and to ensure that we have the right channels for community consultation and revisit a number of committees that have been operating for many years and think about the new committees that we might need. I would like to see that report come to Council as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Ratnam. Is there any further discussion? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried. Councillor Ratnam, any?
No, that's it.
Councillor Davidson? No. Councillor Tapanos?
No, nothing.
Councillor Lincoln Thompson? No. Councillor Rob Thompson? Councillor Yildiz? Okay. Do any councillors wish to seek leave to table any urgent business items?
Brunswick Terminal Station.
That's after the general business items, I think.
All right. We'll do Brunswick
Yep,
Terminal,
sure.
and then the CEO is going to send us further details on the urgent business item.
That's right.
I'm writing it for you now.
You sure?
It's happening.
So we return now to an officer report, DED 3315, the Brunswick Terminal Station Upgrade, draft submission to State Government Appointed Advisory Committee.
Sure. I'd like to move the report with a additional few resolutions, and that is to include a new additional point 3 to authorise the Director for Planning and Economic Development to undertake amendments to the submission, strengthening points in the submission in the following areas. Reasons for refusal by the Urban Planning Committee on both occasions the planning application came to Council, where the site is located, its proximity to residential areas and preferred vision for the site. Council's strong rejection of the expansion of the terminal station on both occasions when the application was considered by Council. Council's strong opposition to the Minister calling in the matter, and Council's position that planning decisions should be made by Council as it's a more robust way of providing a fair process, genuine input and reflection of Council's planning frameworks. An additional point 4, that a draft of the penultimate submission be circulated to all councillors, with councillors invited to provide further feedback. and additional point 5 that a preamble statement be included with the submission outlining Council's strong opposition to the expansion of the Brunswick Terminal Station and summarising the points raised in point 3.
Thank you. Is that seconded by Councillor Tapanos? Councillor Ratnam.
So this report outlines the terms with which Council is going to make a submission to the review of the Brunswick Terminal Station, specifically the process by which the decision was made. This council has been on the record with its opposition to the expansion of the terminal station on two occasions when it came to the Urban Planning Committee before my time on council, but subsequently on a number of occasions when we've been working with the community around minimising some of the negative impacts of the expansion on residential amenity and supporting the broader campaign to have a rethink about what is happening with this expansion and actually think about what this expansion is, number one, necessary, and number two, whether it's necessary in the area in which it is proposed. And a number of us are of the view that it's not an appropriate site given its neighbouring to the creek and residential areas. And we've been supportive of a review. And in this submission, we're going to outline the history of Council's sort of involvement and deliberations on the project and outline the reasons why Council rejected the application on a number of occasions. And the additional points just strengthen the submission around some of the key concerns that councillors have had about the expansion. And we want to ensure that Council's historic voice and current voice is accurately reflected in the submission that is about to go to the state government.
Thank you, Councillor Ratnam. Councillor Tapanos?
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Many years ago, there was a historical mansion on this site, and I guess in the 1930s, a bad decision was made to knock down this historical mansion, which wasn't too dissimilar to the Merri-bek mansion, and build a terminal station. Now, Brunswick has changed since the 1930s. The historical house is long gone and can't be brought back, but Brunswick, and in particular that area, is a very densely populated area. It is adjacent to the creek, the bike path, and a whole range of other services and amenities that are around the creek corridor. Councillors, I feel that this is a very important decision and one that I hope would lead to very positive outcomes for our residents. It was a bad decision in the 1930s to place the terminal station where it is. I don't feel that we should be repeating that decision. And I think that when there are times for significant upgrades and they're talking about 3 times the capacity of the station, to actually look at alternative sites and to ask the question, is this site the appropriate one for such an upgrade and for a terminal station? Sadly, the previous government, Matthew Guy, rezoned the site. It's been 5 years since council and the community have been dealing with this issue, and it came to council for a decision at the Urban Planning Committee early in 2010, and council rightfully rejected it then. And he rejected it because he had a number of concerns, and particularly he had concerns about safety and electromagnetic fields being emitted from the site. He had the view that the site should be moved, and it had the view that something better, something more worthwhile for the community could be built there. There's been a lot of consultation with residents. There's been a lot of consultation and discussion with council, but yet these safety concerns were never really addressed. So I guess what we are seeing here is the state government appropriately acting to give residents and council an opportunity to have an independent review. When council proposes to rezone land or to make an amendment to the Moreland Planning Scheme, part of that process includes an independent panel reviewing the decisions. Now, this is what these residents missed out on when the minister, very late one night, decided to sign off on a plan to rezone this land. The minister didn't just approve a permit, but decided to rezone land without going through that independent panel process. So now we have an opportunity, and I think that we and the community needs to take this opportunity to really say, we believe the process that was followed by Matthew Guy was wrong. but also to say we still have those concerns about safety, and to say that we do believe an alternative site should be found. And I hope that part of the process would include those three issues, and that at the conclusion we might actually be able to get a big win for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Is there any further discussion on this item? Nope. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Do any councillors wish to seek leave to table urgent business?
Yes, I do. I seek leave to table urgent business regarding a letter to be written to the new Australian Greens leader, and if I'm
Thank
second.
you. Councillor Kavanagh, that's seconded by Councillor Ratnam. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried.
So I move that council writes to the new Australian leader of the Greens, Senator Richard Di Natale, to congratulate him on his appointment. And if I have a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Is there a seconder? Seconded Councillor Ratnam. Councillor Kavanagh.
Well, first of all, it's rare for a Moreland resident to be a leader of an Australian political party, and so I congratulate Richard Di Natale on that. He comes from Fawkner as a former student at St Matthew's Primary School and former footballer with Coburg Football Club. So I congratulate him on that, and I'm for one very happy to have someone in such a political position who's from a local, basically. So I think that's can all go well for us.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Ratnam.
Well, it's wonderful to have the opportunity to echo Councillor Kavanagh's words, and I too congratulate Richard Di Natale on his appointment as the leader of the Australian Greens. Senator Di Natale is an exemplary leader with a real vision for how Australia can be a better and fairer country in so many ways. As Councillor Kavanagh mentioned, he is from Moreland stock, and I believe his first ever political campaign was running for the state of Wales, the seat of Wales. So we congratulate him on his appointment, and hopes that he will be able to advocate on our behalf in a number of areas that we share concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Ratnam. Is there any debate around this item?
No, but I'd like to also rise to congratulate the Senator on his recent appointment to the leadership of the Australian Greens. I note that there may only be one member of the Australian Greens in the lower house of the Australian Parliament where key government bills are passed, but nonetheless, it's always a great personal honour and privilege for Senator Di Natale to reach the leadership of his political party, and that should be acknowledged and recognised. So I rise to speak in favour of the letter, and perhaps we may also like to ask, because I know I am interested to know where he lives now.
He's in Geelong.
In Geelong.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Is there any further discussion of this item?
Can I just close the debate?
Of course you can, Councillor Kavanagh.
Just to say that I understand he's in the Senate, but I think any political watcher in the last 12 months since last year's budget would see the Senate's a pretty powerful position at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. As long as you don't make me write to Jackie Lampy. We'll now move to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare that carried. Can I now please have a motion to close the council meeting to the public and move to confidential business? So moved, Councillor Linker-Thompson, seconded Councillor Davidson. All those in favour? All those opposed? I declare that carried, and thank you to members of the gallery. Enjoy the rest of your evening. A bit earlier than last time. And thank you to those of you watching at home. I know we've had a big crowd at home this evening, so great to have you join us.